That is phenomenal because you put me in mind of a portion of your book that talked about the comfort zone. And it talked, you said something, what happens when our need to stay in the comfort zones keeps us from venturing out? And you know what I thought about? I thought about the overwhelming emotion of fear when you think about, okay, I'm comfortable in this place right here. I know everything there is to know about this zone. And you're talking about trying something new, venturing out. Of course, it's like almost like you're paralyzed with fear. And I remember you just mentioned that, but you just moved beyond those emotions and you just kept going. You kept going and you said something that your daughter said to you because it was something that you've always wanted to do. She knew you would do well. And I'm trying to apply that personally to myself in my situation. And I know the listeners will as well. But if you find something that you really want to do, like you have that burning desire, however, you realize you have to venture outside of this comfort zone in order to get there. It's like, okay, but I can do it. I can, it's just, it's that basically what you were experiencing.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought it up from that perspective because do you know, as a young child, I was a dreamer. I had a lot of hope. I saw the whole world as something so beautiful. But over the course of my early years, I was very much traumatized. There were a lot of deaths in the family. Some of it was just traumatic, unexpected. And I was a traumatized child on a number of levels. And I kind of knew it. And I think that I spent my whole life believing in, well, number one, believing in God, believing in something better, believing that even though I may feel a certain way, there is a better world to behold. And I think I had that somehow deposited in my heart as a very young child. And so it was that really, if you want to call it anything, I would say it was my faith
Mm.
in what was good and my faith in life rather than death that helped me overcome so much fear. And I probably lived my whole life that way, that I was always kind of like, as much as I had fear and I felt very daunted. And if you look at pictures of me when I was growing up, you could actually see like layers and levels of heaviness on me, like I would be carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. But I was always somehow finding these little arenas I could go to and just kind of step over the edge a little bit. And I think all of it, no, I'm not going to say I think, I know that as much as each step along the way was a challenge for me in so many different ways, that they also, these steps, helped me reinforce what my heart knew about God, about good, about better, about life, about hope, about dreams, about expansion, which of course is really what God would be. And but I'll tell you that one about the dance. I could go. You could pick any part of my life, and I'll give you a story about it. But that was a biggie for a woman of a certain age who was at a major turning point in life, and also we might as well mention this because it was really big. Is that I would always stay even within a certain zone, even when I worked at two national companies, that I was offered several promotions and I was in leadership, but I never, I knew in my heart there were certain things I was called to and certain things I was not. But there was something in me, Shelley, from the time I was a child, and I'm talking about preschool, is that I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to make new friends, as if these people around the world from every tribe, nation, and tongue were my unmet friends and relatives. And it was literally in my heart to do. And oddly enough, I had grew up with a mother who was agoraphobic, so she always had me in the house. So that was another another story about my background. But that whole juncture of going from always being busy as a mom to not knowing what I was going to do, and then having this thing about dance in front of me that really helped catapult me as a writer, as someone who could express herself publicly, because I took the story of learning how to dance and turned it into the beginning of a series on happiness. And happiness, I always say it's living happy from the inside out, not looking for something in the world that, like, the new car or the new clothing or whatever that's going to make me happy, but my heart's going to make me happy and the ability to do. And that helped me become a person, let's say, that I always had in me to be, and that was to be a goodwill emissary, a goodwill ambassador, someone who could literally go out into the world among so many different kinds of people and bring words of hope and encouragement. And so that's where I am today. That's where I am. I've traveled now to probably 60, maybe it's close to 70 countries, but I forgot, I stopped counting. And everywhere I go, I am meeting not with, I'm not staying at the Hyatt Hotel or the business hotel. I am sometimes staying in people's homes in countries where they don't have hotels. I'm on local transportation. I'm meeting with people and I'm learning about their lives. And I'm also speaking at universities and, national leadership conferences and things like this because I want others to have hope in their lives. And so, whether it's my life and the way I'm living it, or the stories I give, or the presentations I deliver, I want to encourage others to refuel that hope in their own lives and be that person. And do the things they wanted to do that were secreted in their heart, maybe from early childhood, because so much of our lives and our world are always, they're dictated to by other people. And how much of us is within that really needs to be expressed. So by going through that time of losing our daughter to 1,500 miles away at such a young age, and then forcing myself to get out of my comfort zone and do something that I wanted to do at age 2.5 and never giving up and using it as a catalyst for interviews, radio interviews. And so I just kind of took one thing and led it to another and another.
Wow, that is phenomenal. That is phenomenal because you just basically laid out, and it encourages me that although you're hit with this circumstance that you feel that it's like, oh my gosh, and we're talking about the whole empty nesters and your daughter leaving, and I'm sitting here thinking about my own situation, and it's like having to rediscover yourself, which you did. You, I mean, you branched out there. You just did what you needed to do as far as this whole dance thing, and it catapulted you into a place where you're, I mean, sharing your story, helping others around the world. I mean, this is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. And I'm just in awe of you. And through all of that, was there a time where your faith was tested? And if so, how was you able to overcome that?
Well, I could tell you my faith has been tested countless times over the course of my life, really,
Wow.
countless times. I could tell you I was 14 and I was in a school my parents put me in, and I became anorexic because I didn't want to be there. I didn't feel like I needed to be there. And I all I could see was blackness ahead of me for the next 3, 4 years of high school. So I've been through several places like that. Do you know what I'm going to tell you in this case? I don't know why it's coming to mind, so maybe this will speak to someone. During that particular era, I had a number of wonderful friends, wonderful, wonderful girlfriends, and they were in similar circumstances. And, when I'm telling you about being empty nest mom, and as I took my steps to grow, many of those women turned from me very quickly, very quickly. So it was a hard thing for me because I remember I told you I was getting these dreams and I had even some words given to me. They actually frightened me because there was something inside of me that was actually being pushed at to do. And I being more, one would think I'm very outgoing, but I'm actually kind of a quiet person. I love to share, but I'm quiet and I don't mind playing my role, but I was being pushed out. And I'll give you one experience was in the middle of the night. It was probably 4 in the morning. I had this dream, but the dream was so real to me that I was in our master bedroom closet and I hear these words, take off the grave clothes. And it's me inside the closet hearing those words, and I get thrown out of the closet and everything's coming off of me. And this was just one of several experiences. So I knew God was calling me to do
Mhm.
something, to move forward. I had another dream that my girlfriend came in, and I had answered the door for her in the dream, and she said to me, "Maura, there's that list of all those women that want to help you. Have you done anything, or have you gotten back in touch with them yet?" Now, at this time, I'm a mom. I'm at home. I'm cleaning. I had the two dogs. I always had a bottle of Windex in one hand and I think paper towels in the other because the dogs were always slobbering. They were massive dogs. And in the dream, I said to her, "Oh, Joan, I'll get to it after I'm finished with my housework." And her eyes turned to fire. And I said to her in the dream, "Tell me, what is it? What is it? You can tell me." And she said to me, "You are a lazy Christian." And just like that, I woke up.
No.
And so these are the kind of things when you say like a place in time where I felt like my faith was being tested, something deep within me was rising up saying, "It's time for you to go and do something." I didn't even know what that
Mm.
something was, Shelley, but this was the time I'll tell you that some of the faith was tested because many beautiful women that I was with and among, these were Christian ladies, I would pray with them and vice versa. But as soon as I started dancing, and at first they said, "Oh, go do it," they stopped asking me about it. They knew that I was going to be in a performance, and it's not, trust me, it's not like I thought I'm gonna be in the first row and I'm really good, but this was a faith walk for me. They didn't wanna hear anything about it. Then they stopped calling me, and what they did was distance themselves from me, and as I realized what it was, is that I was discomforting to them, but for me, it was total discomfort because now I'm in uncharted territory. I'm kind of on my own. I don't know necessarily what I'm doing. It's not like I wrote a script and said, "I'm going to do this month and this the next month, and here I'm going to go and I'm going to talk here and I'm going to be writing a column over here." I didn't know any of it. So, in many ways, I'll say this, it was almost like I had to start discovering myself anew and afresh, and I had to deal with. You know how you could be in sixth grade and be concerned about losing your friends because of um, peer pressure? What I had was very silent. It was just I was literally closed out. And I remember it was just so awkward for me. So here I am. I'm starting to write and do videos. I had a column, well, for several years on Huffington Post. And so I'm really in this uncharted territory. I'm writing about happiness, what it is that makes us happy, and how we can live, let's say, authentically from the inside out. Because I believe this for everyone. We could have such a better world if people would choose those things that they're interested in and pursue them and grow in them. And yet I'm doing it relatively on my own. So I would say, for the purposes of this interview, that's an answer that's coming because not only did I lose my daughter in a prior life, but I was even losing friendships. And they were uncomfortable with the fact that they only knew me as Kaylee's mom, the lady who always had the Windex, who was always in the kitchen, who was
Right.
always, you'd understand what that is, the lady in the neighborhood. And now suddenly I'm putting myself out there. So it was another identity switch where I went from being somebody in the past who was always happy to be in the background serving everybody else. And now I'm out front. And the people who are my friends aren't there anymore. So I would say that was a big faith walk. But the good thing about it is that it was necessary for me. I needed to grow and I needed to
Mhm.
be in a place where I wasn't looking for the approval of girlfriends and those around me to say, "Yes, this is good for you." I needed to chart my own path. And I think sometimes, Shelley, that when I am out and speaking in all of these other places, a lot of the places I'm speaking to are young people. These are university students, but I pretty much, I'll go anywhere people send me. But everyone has to deal with that. It's who am I? Who am I meant to be? Am I true to myself? Am I living my best life or am I shutting myself in with belief systems maybe that really aren't mine or limitations that others around me and have put upon me and I've adopted? And am I going to spend the rest of my life being this way and being a smaller version of myself? And I don't mean that people have to go out being a public speaker. It's not about that. But am I going to live a very minimal life? Or am I going to find out what my life is supposed to be so that my life is a happier and fulfilled one and that I can be, let's say, a conduit to those around me and a hope to those around me that they too could live more of a life and a happier life?
Absolutely. Because that's what it's all about. you just talked about your whole transformation of evolving, that growth. And I heard someone say once, sometimes when you're going to a certain destination that God has envisioned for you, that whole plan that's already predestined for you way before you knew anything about it, everybody can't go with you, you know?
I never thought about that, but I guess
Everybody,
it's true.
yeah, it's true. It's true. And see, okay, you might have lost some friends, but think about how many people you've met. I mean, through the course of your entire journey, it's just like, I can't
You're
even
right.
imagine.
That's
Right?
the other side of it. And
That's
in
the
the
other
course of
side
it,
of it.
I met so many other women in particular who
Yeah.
had to take their own, could I call it a lonely journey? And
Yeah.
they've even shared, Maura, I had these friends and they went away when I
Yeah.
decided I was going to do something new. And it was a lonely journey. But what
Yeah.
these women find is that they become stronger. And I know this, if you were to look, and I share this sometimes in presentations because I do a lot with visuals. If you
Mhm.
were to see pictures of me at 23 when I left law school, because that was another life story, that was something I was supposed to be. And if you looked at my face and you looked at my eyes, you would see what looked like almost a walking zombie. And if you were to compare even the energy, the approach, the sense of belonging to oneself and being a part of the world and knowing I'm here and I'm trusting in time and in things to come, the transformation between the face that I had and the body language and the energy that was not coming from me at age 23 compared to now. So whoever we are at whatever time in life, we can choose to find something and start to expand and evolve. And the journey is part of it because during the
Yeah.
journey we gain confidence. We overcome our own fears. We learn things like compassion for
Yeah.
others because we have to have it for ourselves when we're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm doing, and a sense of
Exactly.
humor. And there's so much. And then I think somewhere along the line, we even find a new version of youth.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm going to hold on to that part.
Oh, I think you already have it. But we do. We find
Right.
it's like new petals start to emerge because we give
Yeah.
place to them and we give room to them. And we'll think, oh, I didn't even know I had that life in me. I didn't know I have that potential. But when we
Right.
work it, we find out we do. And
Right.
then there's an energy and a life that comes from it.
There's a part that I read that I thought was phenomenal. And you said, you may be young or old, rich or poor, male or female. You may be experiencing gain or loss, fame or obscurity, power or vulnerability, health or illness. Despite changes the world can bring, we have the ability to choose how we process each life experience by determining how we view things from within. And while you were talking, and you were talking about the 23-year-old Maura as opposed to who you are now, and I'm thinking to myself, it has to do with a lot of from what's within, right? And whatever you're dealing with internally, it usually shows up on the outside, you know? And
Yes.
so I know you've learned a lot of life lessons down through the years. What would you say is your biggest life lesson that you've learned?
Well, I'm glad you read that from the book because I'm like, oh, that's pretty much summarizes me.
Yeah, because
I
I'm
learned
reading, I'm like, this is phenomenal.
And I wrote that book. It's a book for anybody and everybody. I wasn't writing
Mm,
it to be, winning some kind of special prize. It was a book from my heart to everybody else's heart
yeah.
and soul. But it also describes my entire life story because I was forced, even as a young child, to say, am I going to be a victim? Is this the end of the line? Or can I find hope within?
Mm.
And so in every aspect of my life, I've had to go there. And so I think your question was something about advice.
Yeah, it was
Advice or
basically
life
the life
lesson?
lessons.
Okay, it's
What
the
was the
same thing.
biggest one? Yeah, same thing.
Somewhere along the line,
Yeah.
I had to come to this place with every time I felt daunted, and, trust me, I remember as a child, I'd have to go up to my bedroom, and I would have to rethink what my body was telling me and how I was feeling, because I had to learn how to rethink and reprocess. Maybe that's the best word. The
Mhm.
best way I can say it now is this: whatever it is that I'm dealing with, I'll always say to myself, am I viewing myself from the inside? It's a here, doesn't matter. Am I viewing myself as a victim, or am I seeing myself as a beneficiary? And the victim is someone who always feels like the world is after them. They're a martyr. Everything is going to go wrong. And then the world is a very unkind, unpredictable place. But for a beneficiary, bene means good. Something good is going to come out of this, we say to ourselves. And then
Mhm.
if you view yourself as a beneficiary, you also tend to have a backdrop of the world around you, your cosmos, to say it's also beneficial. So not only am I going to benefit from this, but those around me and things around me are going to benefit. And that is probably the biggest life lesson that I've had to maybe learn over and over again. And that's how I best articulate it. And here's something, although we know this is a show, it's a faith based show. And in many of the places I'm speaking, I may be in places where, they might be former communist countries where people had no faith, or places that are totally secular. So that's why I write for everyone. But no matter what there is, I realized this only last week. Remember, God said, "Lo, I lay before you life and blessings, cursings and death."
Right.
Choose life. What does it
That's
say?
right.
That you may live and dwell in the land. And so, everywhere I am, Shelley, no matter who I'm around, I want to present a picture of life, because there's so much more for all of us when we choose that path. And the world tells us in so many ways only to think about death, only to think about the curses, only to think about the awful things that could happen. And so that's what I carry with me. And I believe, because of all the challenges I've been through, that it's something that emanates from me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? In other words, I don't even
Absolutely.
have to tell people to be that way, but they feel it within me. So that would
Absolutely.
be, am I seeing myself as a victim, or am I seeing myself as a beneficiary? And I will say this, if you can first choose, and it's a choosing, to
Yeah.
see yourself as a beneficiary no matter what the challenge, what the seeming loss, what the sadness, the sorrow, the problem may appear as, something happens. I don't know how it is. I could say it's miraculous, it's God. I saw it in corporate life, I've seen it in everything. It changes the energy. New ideas come, new perceptions come, new outcomes come, and
Yeah.
somehow it may not happen like just in that moment, but our minds change. We learn from it, and then something shifts around us, and we'll be like, that rotten thing actually worked out well. Should I
I
tell
love
you one
it.
other thing? This is gonna seem so crazy, but I feel like I need to do it. I'm
Uh-huh.
not wearing the boot today, and I don't wanna show you everything. Let's see if I can. No,
Oh,
could
okay.
you see what I have? I fell down the steps a few weeks ago, maybe over a month ago, and I broke my ankle, and I had to get surgery. And, so which meant I have been literally going around the floor on my butt, because I can't really walk on it. I'm not wearing a boot, but I look like Frankenstein on my foot. Every time I go down my steps with the broken foot, I thank the stair. I thank the stair that I fell on, and I said, "You
Mhm.
know what? Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to slow down and to use this as a
Mhm.
time for reflection." And so you could see, fortunately, I'm still able to work on doing things like this. But even in that, where I have not been able to walk in 5 weeks, so I have several weeks more to go. I do look like Frankenstein on both sides of my ankle. But you know what? I know that I am using this time by God's design for reflection, and it's yet another part of the story that will help insert something new into my life that apparently was needed, that I could take with me on my next presentation, my next place. And so in every case, there's always something I could relate to with the common person.
But that is phenomenal because you've said so much right there, and I'm trying to remember a lot. But number one, choosing life, that was huge. But number two, being thankful for the circumstance that brought you to where you are now. You know what I mean? Because sometimes when we're going through the rough stuff, sometimes we focus on, why am I going through this, and why could this happen? I can't do this, I can't do that. but how about stop for a second and just be thankful for the trial because something good is going to come out of it,
And it
right?
is. I know it.
And
I
so
so
you
know
were
it. And
able to rest and just, slow down, and God probably brought all of these ideas and things to you. But also another important thing was choosing life. I mean, because we have the choice. We have the choice to choose life because you know what? Sometimes people stop when the hard situations hit. I mean, the really hard ones that kind of knock you off of your feet. It's like some of them stop and they choose the role of the victim and they live their lives on that path. But if you can just muster up enough strength to say, you know what? Mm-mm, I'm choosing life. Okay. I'm not going to be the victim here. I'm going to learn what it is I'm supposed to learn, whatever life lesson there is. And I'm just going to move and keep going and keep going. And then you'll discover there's life on the other side of that trial, right?
and the thing is, I really believe that this is like
Yeah.
enforced rest because
It,
I'm always like moving, 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 and I can't go anywhere. Literally, you're not in the house with us, but you can see the stairs, right? The stairs up and down. I am literally moving around on my butt because that's the only way I can move around, which
right.
means most of the
Oh.
time I am seated, but it was something to force me to be
Mm-hmm.
quiet because I
Yeah.
believe that at some point in the future I will be moving a lot and I needed a time by God for
Yes.
reflection, for preparation, for seeing things maybe that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And I know it's been happening. So you're right.
Yeah.
This is something I've acquired over the course of my life. I think I've just crystallized it into something that I could relate to people in fewer words than as it might have taken me decades to figure out. But yes, we could choose life. And in that choosing to be a beneficiary rather than a victim, the life of God, which goes on and on and on in ways we can't even imagine, comes forth from us. So really, it's like choosing faith
That's right.
over the fear. But what about this? This was what I planned, and this is what I wanted to do. It's all saying the same thing, but I've lived it for 63 years. Now you know how old I am. 63.
Wow. You look amazing, okay? Can I just say that? And I
Well, I
love
said
how
the
your
same. Thank
eyes are
you.
smiling. I mean, because you talk about, when you were 23 and you said you look kind of like a zombie, but I'm looking at you now and your eyes are just smiling, just bright. And that just basically talks about where you are at this place in your life. It's like you're walking on that path that God has designed for you. And you're helping so many people in the process. I mean, this is just phenomenal.
That's really, something? It was a real big thing to pull me out from the back to the front of the line where
Yeah.
it's me, my face and everything. But do you know, that's all it is. I want to see a happier world. I want to see a world that's living. I want to see a world that looks at others and sees things that are beautiful and praiseworthy. I want a world that encourages each other, that works on love
Right.
and works on unity rather than divisiveness and fear and dread and everything that the culture gives us. And so
Absolutely.
it's really not me. I just happen to be the vehicle, but I hope, and I've had people say this to me when I've gone certain countries where obviously English would be the second language. And there are people that said, Maura, I didn't even know what it was that brought me here to listen to you today, but the moment you stepped on the stage, I realized something that even if I didn't understand a word you were saying, I knew you understood me. And so that's all I am. It's all I am is you may be looking at it through a vessel, but it's not that area that I'm communicating from. It's from the spirit of the heart that says, yes, you can
Mm.
choose life no matter what your background, no matter what your experience, you can choose life. And you're right, there's something, I think it's an energy because trust me, Shelley, if you were to see me at age 15, 18, 9, 11, you would think, who is this person? So I had my own life. And as you know, I'm doing it even today with what do I call it? The Frankenstein stitches and everything. But it's a continual process of life to
Right.
life to life to choosing, 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 and expecting to see a better world. And if I could leave this world, I'll tell you my very first blog, and maybe this is a good place to leave it. I'm known as the ambassador of happiness, which I was given when I spoke at Nelson Mandela Day, and then I trademarked it later on. But believe it or not, my first ever blog was called Tombstones. And I got out of bed one night because I couldn't sleep, and I had to write it because I thought if I don't write this, I won't go to sleep. And it was actually a small comedic piece which seems odd. Why would you write about tombstones? And I was writing about my husband's grandfather, who I had never met, and I wanted to know something about him. And the only information that I could get from my husband's mother was that her father used to open up his present on Christmas Day, and they would usually be white button-down shirts. And he would, oops, we lost me.
Yeah. I
I
just
lost
for a
me. Okay.
second there. Just for a second there.
Okay.
Okay, you're
Sorry
back.
about that. I thought I'm
No,
talking
you're
too
fine.
long, but I will tell you the story because it's worthwhile mentioning the final piece. Is that I'm asking questions about my husband's grandfather who passed away long before I met him. And the only thing that his daughter, my mother-in-law, could remember about him was that at Christmas time, he would get white button-down shirts. And I guess he would wear them to church on Sundays. And she said he would take them out of the box and he would wear it to church, wrinkles and all. And that was all she could remember about him to share with me, as the granddaughter-in-law. And I thought to myself, well, after I'm gone, when the tombstone is written, and there's very little, whoops,
No, you're good.
I'm still there because I see
Yeah.
myself going, all right,
No,
maybe that
you're
was my
fine.
cue. I should have thought.
I can
Anyway,
see.
and I thought, the tombstone is so quick. What do you write on there? How would I want to be remembered 2 and 3 generations down the pike? And you know what I came up with? 2 words. And this was my very first blog. And I think this sum totals everything about me, my life, and what my desire is for anyone else. The 2 words I choose on my tombstone were she loved. And I remember saying, I don't even care if they didn't know my name. It doesn't matter. But imagine if what I leave behind me is the sense that people know they felt love.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
And so that's why I do, in a sense, what I do, because I think I'm connecting with the love that's in others, and I'm looking to bring light to it, and to that others would also be conduits of love. And that's pretty much my story.
Wow. I have to say, this has been an awesome, awesome conversation. And I really, really enjoyed talking with you. I mean, you've given me so many nuggets to just take along with me. So I know that our audience is really going to benefit from you sharing your story. So I just want to say I appreciate you coming on here and just opening up and sharing all of these helpful, great, fantastic nuggets that we're just going to take along with us.